Okay. We've got a lot of people out on the road. People who will be on the road, Cindy. Okay. So some people are going to be watching in today, later remotely, and that's fine. Está bien, bienvenidos, bienvenidas, welcome, welcome. Y muy bien. Vamos a practicar un poquito. We're going to practice a little. We'll do some easy practice today. I'm going to give you an idea of two things that we're going to do. One, because it's an easy lead-in. And the second topic is because it's something that people often need to review and think about and remember, oh, this thing is out there. For some people who are watching later, they might not have seen this type of thing, and that is stem changing verbs. So we're going to do two easy things. One super easy, so people don't feel pressured, and one that is a little bit harder, but you know, some review stuff and some listening comprehension and some speaking. But you're going to get assignments to do more speaking next week with a topic. So I know lots of people like to have some a heads up, a warning, so that they've got the week to think about, oh, what will I talk about? And you'll get that fair warning. Okay. Bueno, primero, me llamo Marilyn. Wow. Vivo en Fountain Hills. Estoy en las afueras. I'm in the suburbs, as far suburb as you can get before you get to state trust land. Estoy en las afueras y bueno, usted, Daniel, eres la nueva. You're the new one. Could you introduce yourself real quickly? ¿Sí?
¿En español?
Sí, claro. Sí,
Okay.
claro.
Soy Danielle, mucho gusto. Yo vivo en Scottsdale, Arizona, y tengo dos niñas que van a, this is where my Spanish gets bad, van a estar muy, van a gritar mucho, so lo siento en advance.
Bien, bien. Dos hijas. Sí, hiciste bien, perfecta,
Gracias.
perfecta. Ok, sí, yo tengo dos hijos, pero son hijos adultos que todavía viven con nosotros, ¿sí? Empty nest, nada de eso, none of that empty nest stuff. I keep wondering, when am I going to truly experience empty nest? No lo veo. I don't see it even on the horizon yet.
¿Cuántos
Okay.
años tienen ellos?
Pero, pues, unos 20 años, pero trabajan y cuesta mucho tener un apartamento ahora, ¿no? Y
Sí.
bueno, ok, entonces están aquí, pero todo está bien. Bueno, vale. Everybody do a quick little intro so that Danielle gets to know who you folks are. Carrie, you, Cindy, and we'll have a lot more, but it's just an emptier one today.
You want me to start?
Cindy, puedes empezar. Oh, hola, chica. ¿Qué tal? No, tan joven.
Me llamo Cindy y yo vivo en Scottsdale para 2 años.
Sí. Por 2 años, 2 años. Bien, no sabía. Ok, bueno. Y Carrie, tienes 2 casas. ¿Sí?
Me llamo Carrie. Vive en Wisconsin ahora. Vive en Fountain Hills, Arizona, en invierno.
Sí, en el invierno, ¿sí? Tenemos muchos estudiantes que viven en Scottsdale, en Arizona, durante el invierno, y entonces se van, they take off. Se van. Son inteligentes, they are smart. Son inteligentes, se van durante el verano, cuando es como invierno. It's like hell here, you know. Sí, se van al norte, Se van a otros estados, and many of our folks who are snowbirds tune in, like Carrie, for class remote, which is great because you don't have to give it up. Okay. Y Linda, ¿quieres hablar o no? Linda,
Sí,
you want to talk?
sí, sí.
Okay. Vale.
Me llamo Linda. Vivo en Norte Scottsdale. Norte, sí.
En el norte, en el norte.
En el norte, sí. Tengo dos gatos y uno perro that I talk about all the time. So
Y un perro.
no
Y-
niños.
no tienes niños,
Yes,
pero
only
las
the
mascotas.
gatos.
Las dos. Hola, chicas. ¿Cómo están? ¿Cómo están? Ay, qué preciosas. Bueno, ok. Vale, muy bien. Entonces, ok. Sí, y en mi casa, tengo una casa muy llena. Wow, I've got a really full house. Hay cinco mascotas en mi casa. Mi último gato se fue. My last cat just went, but if he, invades our space, I'll have to chase him out. Okay. Bueno, estamos aquí para practicar, para escuchar. You will wind up getting a lot of little video snippets. We play some during class. We're going to start off with one soon. You will wind up with some other videos to watch for homework, and input is the big thing. The thing that helps people most, especially when they need to get up to speed, is input. And input just means listening a lot to people speak. The more input you get, the more you get used to the patterns, where to the point where they will sound natural. But it takes a great deal of input. And sometimes when you listen to videos, I'll just do this as a reminder, most of you know this already. It is good with the YouTube videos I give you for homework to turn on the closed captions at the bottom if you feel that, it's going to be hard to listen without captions. It is very, very normal to have to listen to a lot of these videos 2-3 times. Okay. And when I used to test high school kids for listening comprehension, and we had our listening comprehension sections on a test, I'd always say, first time you listen to a piece, listen just for the big idea and don't pressure yourself to understand everything. The second, and at the end of that time, it will feel like Swiss cheese. There will be holes here and there. Second time you listen, go in for some of those holes to fill in the holes, see what little parts you missed. And third time, listen more for those specific structures that you should be imitating when you speak. So, okay, vale. Vamos a empezar. We're going to start. Vamos a empezar con un ejercicio muy fácil. We're going to start with a really, really easy exercise. Momentito, voy a cambiar. Momentito, voy a cambiar mi espacio aquí. I need to change up my space a little bit here so that I can play this video. This is a shorty video, and it is for a little, this is our first snippet thing. We're going to practice with some photo prompts after we listen to this. A lot of times when you respond to people, when they ask you a question, a lot of times we want to shorten that response. Maybe, we don't want to be redundant over, except with that pronoun, le and les, with those pronouns. Usually, because we don't want to keep repeating the same word over and over and over in a response, we have little shortcuts that we can insert to make a response shorter. So we're going to take a look at one way to do a shortcut. And this is a short, well, he'll explain it. So I'm not going to explain it because he'll do it very, very succinctly and well. And we're going to practice this idea you're going to see when we're done. And by the way, the email that you get after class will have the link for this so that you can watch it again. A ver. Okay. Oui, a ver.
And when you are shopping in Spanish, a really useful way to describe what you want is the green one, the red one, the big one, or the small one. Now, this is particularly useful if you don't know what something is called in Spanish. So, for example, I want the green one. Quiero el verde. I want the red one. Quiero el rojo. Now, you can also say, I want that one, which is simply quiero eso. But then if the shop owner reaches for the wrong item, you can be more specific. No, not that. The big one. Eso no, el grande. And of course, if you know it's a feminine noun, then you can say la grande. And when you are shopping in Spanish, a really useful way to just
that just repeats over and over. So that's a little loop, shorty. And as you can tell, the thing we're going to practice, because we want to start off with something easy, is just knowing that a lot of times when we shorten a response, what we want to do is take an article that with the word. That's how we want to take. We want to take the word and we want to pair it up with a description. And in English, the way we do that is we say the blank one. Yeah. The little one, the big one, the fast one, the slow one, right? The blank one. Well, we don't use the word one to do that in Spanish, but the word that we do plug in before the description is either el, la, los, or las. Okay. So we're going to do one for an example. Okay, so the only thing you got to, keep in mind is you do want to make sure you pair up the right gender. Yeah. With that description. So your adjective will have to be in a masculine or feminine, singular or plural form. And then your the word will have to pair up with that. So unos ejemplos. Y tengo que engrandecer esto. I've got to make this bigger. Okay. ¿En qué edificio está tu oficina? If you're in a big city, you're asking where anything is. ¿En qué edificio está tu oficina? What building is your office in? And instead of going through a whole long response, mi oficina está en blah, 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 yeah. You might just want to say the modern one. See, en qué edificio, in what building? And here is a word that drives whether it's going to be a masculine or feminine or singular or plural. We're talking about edificio, building. Okay, so we're starting with an easy one. En qué edificio está tu oficina? I might respond, and I'm going to add Whoop. What happened there? And we don't want caps in it. We don't want to shout with caps. Está en el moderno. Está en el moderno. They're in the modern one, meaning the modern building. I can even take out the está. Do we ever speak in fragments in English? Well, of course we do. En el moderno. En el moderno, in the modern one. ¿Cómo se dice in the little one? In the little one. I don't even want you to put a verb in there. In the little one.
En el pequeño.
En el pequeño. En el pequeño. Okay. In the big one or the tall one, right? Somebody might use grande or alto, either way, to talk about that. A skyscraper. En
el grande.
En el grande, en el alto. Okay. And so these are ways to shorten up our response, as we often do in any language. All right. So that we don't have to have a great big old long honking sentence to answer a simple question. ¿En qué edificio está tu oficina? En el moderno, en el pequeño, en el grande, en el alto. Okay. Vale. Bueno, entonces, so, we took the easy example here, en el moderno. Now, what you would not want to do is something en el moderna or en la moderno. The forms have to match up. So if I'm going to talk about edificio, right? We want a masculine description, right? Moderno, pequeño, grande. Grande has both the feminine and the masculine form. Grande doesn't need a separate feminine form. And alto. Ok, vale. Vamos a practicar. Ah, ¿qué carro prefieres? Or maybe somebody may ask you, ¿cuál es tu carro? Which one is your car?
Esto.
Es eso, it's that one. Okay. Oh, pero ¿cuál? But which one? Queremos un color. We want a color.
Ah. Rojo, el carro rojo.
Okay. ¿Cómo se dice the red one? And just leave it really
El
short.
rojo.
El rojo. El rojo. If you want to put a verb in there with it, you can say es el rojo or prefiero el rojo. Okay, vale, right?
You
So-
can just say El Rojo and that'll be enough.
See, that's enough. Hey, yeah, you know what? You're out in a great big, you're out at, what used to be Arizona Mills, Tempe Marketplace, Desert Marketplace, one of those big things. Yeah, they've got the great big parking lot. Your friend goes, wow, hey, which one is your car, right?
Right,
Uh,
right.
El rojo, the red one. We do that in English too. We just use a different combination of words to do it. So, not a biggie. ¿Cómo se dice the white one?
El Blanco.
El blanco. El blanco. Bueno, sí. ¿Cómo se dice the black one?
El negro.
El negro. El negro, muy bien. ¿Cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se dice? Por favor, the blue one.
El azul.
El azul. El azul. And this one, azul, is the only one that does, that azul word, because it does not end in o. That adjective, azul, could flip to, be either masculine or feminine, right? El rojo, el azul, el blanco, el negro. Bueno.
Una pregunta, por favor.
Sí, dime, tell me.
We would say the red one. And when we say El Rojo, does El represent one?
It does yes, it does for us. That's what it does. So here's an example again. And some of you were talking about this. I'm thinking literally, and the first step to fixing that is to know that you're thinking literally. We don't translate word for word. The way they use that concept of saying one is to just use the article with the description, right?
Okay.
And we would never say, okay, buen ejemplo. You would never say el rojo uno. Somebody would really, they'd be, huh? Yeah. I mean, they know what you meant, but why are they saying uno would be the thing. El rojo uno is something nobody would ever say. The pattern is just el with a description, or la with a description, right? Or los with a description, or las with the descriptions. And we'll get to the plurals in a later slide. Okay.
También tengo una pregunta. si
Okay,
puedo.
vale, dime.
Me voy a try it in Spanish. Usted dijiste que azul puede ser femenina o masculina,
No,
pero so no.
Perdón.
No,
No.
porque pensé que él fue con el coche y ese es el razón que es él.
Sí,
¿Sabes?
eso, sí. Carro o coche, y la palabra específica depende de la región, del país. En algunos países se dice carro, en algunos países se dice coche, y no importa mucho. Everybody knows what you mean if you use either coche or carro. Coche también es el coche.
Wait,
El
I'll say it in
carro.
English. I don't think I
No.
basically you said azul can be feminine or masculine, but isn't el azul el because car is masculine, not blue?
Exacto. Right.
Okay.
So we don't want to use a feminine word to talk about carro. carro
listening.
or coche, sí, coche igual, auto igual. Any of those terms would be talking about your vehicle, right? And all those words happen to be masculine, but we always are focusing on what that noun is to say, do I use el, la, los, or las? And do I use a masculine or a feminine description? That's it. Okay. Bueno, aquí. ¿Cuál de los atletas va a ganar? Which one of the athletes is going to win? ¿Cuál? Which one? ¿Cuál de? Which one of? ¿Cuál de los? And notice this is an oddball word because we always have some oddballs. Los atletas, athletes, yeah. And athletes looks like it should be an atleta. Wow, but it's el atleta, la atleta. That word atleta does not change. So this is an oddball word, but we know because it's in the question that it's what kind of gender. Es masculino, ¿no? Es masculino. ¿Cuál de los atletas va a ganar? El delgado?
El delgado.
The thin one? El musculoso?
The
Muscular one.
muscular one.
The muscular one. El adolescente, el joven, the
The young.
young
The
one.
young
I might say el adolescente, the teenage one, see? Oh, el viejo,
The old one.
the old one. If I want to be really polite, I might use that word that is kind of looks like ancient, and it kind of does mean ancient, but it means elderly. This is a kind word, el anciano.
Can I give you a word and see if we can make it in Spanish?
Sí, sí,
Somebody,
claro.
I said old, that I was old to somebody, and they said, no, we don't ever use that word. The word is seasoned. You're seasoned.
Oh, seasoned.
Yes.
En inglés?
I don't think it's in the culture to be
And-
that polite and politically
yeah.
correct.
Creo que no. Anciana would be elderly, and that would be.
Well, he said,
considered,
no, not old, not elderly, the new word, seasoned. And
yeah.
I liked it.
This is wonderful.
Okay, vale. I don't think we've got a real. Eso me gusta. I like that one. Vamos a cambiar otra vez. Vamos a usar colores. ¿Qué camiseta tienes puesta? What shirt do you have on? And this combination of words means wearing. Are you wearing? Or you have on. Okay. Tienes puesta. Do you have? Puesta means placed on your bod. Okay. ¿Qué camiseta tienes puesta? Now, when we figure out about the el, los, las, we have to look at which word.
Camiseta.
Camiseta. Ok, vale. Si vamos a describir el color, entonces.
La camiseta.
But we want to make it
Amarillo.
short.
Amarillo.
Can't remember the name of
Amarillo.
yellow.
Amarillo.
So we're going to cut out that camiseta word, okay?
La,
Oh,
la
yeah, that's right.
amarilla.
La amarillo.
Should it be
Maria.
amarillo?
Amarilla.
Amarilla. And we need what little word in front of amarilla?
La.
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 La amarilla. La amarilla. ¿Qué camiseta tienes puesta? What shirt do you have on? La amarilla. Bueno, sí. Now, remember, if you want to do a whole big full sentence, it could be tengo puesta la amarilla. Okay, it could be that long, but a lot of times, is it okay to just answer la amarilla? Yes, it's okay. We do this in English too. Okay, ¿cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se dice the gray one?
La gris.
La gris. La gris. La gris fantástico. ¿Cómo se dice the green one?
La verde.
Verde.
La verde.
La verde.
Sí, la verde, la verde. la verde. And notice that gris does not end in o. So gris does the flippy flop. It's both masculine and feminine. I don't have to change the form. Verde does not end in o, so I don't have to make it masculine or feminine. It already works with both of those. But amarilla needs to have an a at the end. La amarilla, la gris, la verde, y the red one again.
La roja.
La
Y
roja.
la roja, la roja, la roja, la roja. Bien. Okay. Fantástico. You're getting the hang of this. Okay. ¿Cuál es tu nieta? Which one is your granddaughter? And we're looking at hair color here. Ooh. So we're not going to call her yellow. Yeah, but
La
brunette. ¿Alguien recuerda
Marrón.
cómo?
marrón. La marrón.
You're very, very close.
Morado.
Morena. Moreno.
Morena.
Morena.
Morena, la morena. La morena, the brunette. Okay, la morena. Bueno, entonces, ¿cómo se expresa the blonde?
La rubia.
La
That is-
rubia.
La rubia. La rubia.
La rubia. Now, with
Rubia.
black hair, it's a little bit tough. They may still call that morena, la del pelo negro. We'll just put that in because that's kind of an outlier. We have these specific terms. Morena means brunette, and somebody may still use morena to talk about her. They might, but technically she has black hair. So we're just throwing that oddball one in. Okay. El ejemplo difícil, the hard example is this one because there's a very long word for redhead.
A quick question. Why is it del? Del pelo negro.
Aquí?
Yeah. What is the rule with del? Like de la? Pelo?
Pelo negro is just used to say black hair.
No, but
The
why is
one,
it
she with the, instead of with, they use de. Or they might use con el pelo. La con el pelo. Somebody might use del pelo negro or con el pelo.
Why is it del instead of de?
Because de and el next to each other smash together and form what they call a contraction. But contractions in Spanish don't have an apostrophe like they do in English. It means we're combining two words together because de ends in the S sound and el begins with the S sound, and they smash it together to make one word. De and el. Only when de and el are next to each other.
And
Okay.
because pelo is masculine, it's
Sí.
L. Okay.
Eso, sí, yes, yes. So look what happened. This is a very oddball example. Actually, this is a good one to see. La con, the one with black hair, or the one of black hair. Yeah, la de, the one. And because we're talking about a gal, we know that works. Okay. ¿Quién sabe? Who knows? ¿Quién sabe? La palabra para redhead. Woo!
Cabello rojo.
Almost, yeah. You're very, very close. We've got a special term for a redhead, la pelirroja. La pelirroja. And notice that pelo turns into pelirroja. They just got a special word for redhead, and that's it. El pelirrojo, como el príncipe Harry, Prince Harry, es pelirrojo, is redhead, see? La pelirroja, the redhead. But you see how now we're talking about a gal, so we've got all la words starting out there. Okay.
So Harry would be el pelirrojo.
No, pelirroja, because this is the outlier, this black hair thing. We don't have a separate term for black hair. It's just pelo negro. Yeah.
No, Harry with the red hair. If he was a redhead, a man.
Can you say pelo rojo?
Yeah.
I
Or
don't
can
think you would hear
you
that.
say el pelirrojo?
El pelirrojo. El pelirrojo. Sí.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, if you messed up and said pelo rojo, would somebody understand you? Yeah, I think they'd probably understand you. It would just sound a little funny, a little off to them. But peli rojo es la palabra. That's our vocab word there. Okay. And we can talk about anything. Aquí, ¿en qué paisaje quieres caminar? What kind of landscape, what kind of land do you want to walk in? ¿Quieres caminar? Do you want to walk in? Mountainous, flat, plain, wooded.
Arbolado.
¿Y cómo se dice the wooded area?
Huh.
And we're looking at el paisaje, el paisaje. So everything is going to have to be dictated by that word paisaje.
Paisaje.
What do I add in front of arbolado to make it the wooded area?
El.
El arbolado.
Mhm.
The flat area.
Liano,
El.
plano.
El llano o el plano. There are two words for flat. And, you know, like we have the word plain. Yeah. Bien. The mountainous landscape.
La montanoso.
But it's el paisaje. So it won't be la.
El.
El montañoso, el montañoso. Bien, bien, bien. Ok, bueno, ejemplos. Se me olvidó de escribir la pregunta. I forgot to write the question. ¿Cuáles son tus comidas favoritas? ¿Cuáles son tus comidas favoritas? Which ones are your favorite foods? ¿Cuáles son tus comidas favoritas? If I want to say sweet ones,
Las dulces.
las dulces. ¿Por qué las? Why did you pick a las?
Porque comida es femenina.
Comida es femenina, exacto, sí. Las dulces, the sweet ones. And now we see our first example where we got a plural, not el or la, but los and las. Y aquí, comidas. Here's a word that it drives what we use for the describing word and the los or las word. Okay, salty ones.
Las saladas.
Las saladas, perfecto. Spicy ones.
Los
Las picantes.
Las picantes, las picantes, ¿sí? Okay, now, I'm gonna... Todos, bien. Everything. Todas, sí, todos tipos. Now, fíjense, notice something. If in speaking to you, the person asks a question this way, it's going to ever so slightly change what you do with the ones part. So let's change this up a little bit. Let's change it up to, instead of comidas, put in platos. ¿Cuáles son tus platos? Your dishes, your favorite dishes, instead of your favorite foods. Now, if somebody phrases the question this way, ¿cuáles son tus platos favoritos? Now, instead of comidas driving it, platos is driving the response. And we would have to change it up to
Los
los dulces or los salados, ¿sí? Or los picantes. So we always want to be listening for what is that noun that is in the question, because that's what's going to drive what we do with the answer, right? tus comidas favoritas, we need a las kind of answer, but tus platos would need a different answer. Okay, vamos a ver. Let's skip that one because I want to move on. Okay, I want to keep on with the plurals here. ¿Qué tipo de uvas prefieras? Uvas son grapes, ¿no?
Las uvas.
Las uvas.
Las
Here's
uvas.
what's driving our response. And here again, we're looking at a color.
Entonces, las rojas.
Las rojas, bien, sí. Uy.
Las verdes.
Sí, las rojas, las verdes. Uy, a ver. Because I enlarged this, it kind of, it's still messing up. Still messing up. It's because I made this bigger that I'm getting a problem. Okay. Las verdes. Purple. Las.
Mm.
¿Cómo se dice purple?
Yo no sé. Morano.
Las moradas, sí, las
Morada.
moradas, the purple ones. ¿Sí? A ver, entonces, sí, las rojas, las verdes o las moradas, ¿ok? ¿Vale? ¿Sí? Bien. Okay. Let's see how this changes up just a teeny tiny bit. Most descriptions are just a flat out an adjective, a describing word, right? Like red, green, purple, like sweet, salty, spicy, like thin, muscular, old, young. Okay, but sometimes we talk about materials, and that'll change up the way we pair up words just ever so slightly. Okay, and when I talk about materials, I'm talking about not the size, not the color, but I'm talking about what it is made out of. So here is the magic word that's going to come into the picture.
Simba.
In English, when we talk about materials, we'll just say it's metal, it's it's a glass ceiling, it's a metal container, it's a wooden barn. Okay, and we do that in English, but in Spanish, when we talk about what material something is made out of, we need this little word de, and then the material. Okay, so I'm going to show you how that changes up a little bit if you're talking about a material thing, because you're not going to hear this a lot, but just so that you know when you hear it, this is what's happening. ¿Qué edificio es más común en tu ciudad? What building is most common in your city? And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to plug in an el, a la, a los, or a las, but when I have a material, it's going to be de and the kind of material. Okay, because they don't have a single word adjective like colors or size in Spanish to talk about materials that something is made out of. So, entonces, por ejemplo, ¿qué edificio es más común en tu ciudad? What building? But what is still driving it is still this word, which is edificio, which is masculine. So, entonces, el de vidrio, or you might hear people using the word cristal, glass building. We're not going to get a lot of those, but it's just to show you the breadth of materials we talk about. El de vidrio, and el is standing in for that one idea. Okay, but I'm just showing you with materials, it changes up a little bit to plug in that word de, and then we have de and a noun. Instead of a describer like skinny, we have an actual thing, glass, el de vidrio, see? If I want to say brick, buildings are coming. El de ladrillo. If I want to say stucco, el de stucco. If I want to say wooden, el de madera. So it changes up a little bit.
Does
to-
Madeira have to change to Madero?
No, buena pregunta. Good question. Why don't these change like peli roja? Or
Is there
or
nouns?
dorado, because these are actual things. And so whatever that thing is, doesn't change. Wood is a thing, it's a material. Yeah, it's not a description, it's an actual thing. And so the thing doesn't change to a different, if it already is feminine, as the word wood, madera, is already feminine, it's got to stay that way, because unlike thin or big or little, this is an actual thing. De madera, de ladrillo. So, por ejemplo, if I change this to, if I change this to casa, que casa es más común, what house? It would still be ladrillo. It would just be la de ladrillo, la del ladrillo, the brick one. It would be la de madera, a wooden one. And the la would represent a different noun in the question, which is casa. Bien? Okay, so this thing we're asking about or talking about is going to drive what we do with that el, la, los, or las in the end. But with materials, we don't really worry about, with materials, we don't change that because those are not adjectives, they are nouns. So one more quick example of those, or two more, dos ejemplos más. ¿Qué tipo de manta usas? What kind of blanket do you use? And we're looking at manta, blanket. And that is?
De lana, la.
Okay. So if I want to say the woolen one,
La.
La de lana.
la de lana, sí.
Is there another word for blanket?
You may hear cobija, covering. Yeah. Blanket is one of those words that they'll use. You'll hear different words for that word sometimes in different regions or different countries. La de algodón, the cotton one. Okay. So even when we talk about items, again, this is another example where we have to have that little magic word de, because they don't have a word woolen. Yeah. It has to be wool, the thing. Okay, so when we talk about materials, we need de and the material, and then it won't change with gender, but the el, la, los, las will change. So, para la boda de tus amigos, for your friend's wedding, ¿qué tipo de platos? Oh, ¿qué tipo de platos quiere la novia? What kind of dishes does the bride want? ¿Qué tipo de platos? And platos is driving our ones. If we want to say China.
Sorry.
Which the word will we use? This is driving the response.
El,
Los.
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 Yeah.
Those,
yeah.
sí.
Los de porcelana. Oh, she's getting China. Bien. No Corel for that girl, because it's a wedding thing. Oh, or she's going with like, earthenware things. That's cerámica. And that's a material. So we're going to need our magic de word, but we'll put the ones in front of it. It'll be
Los.
los de cerámica. Los de cerámica. And notice, porcelana is a thing, not a description. Cerámica is a thing, not a description, right? Like these are things. Cotton is a thing. Wool is a thing. Okay. So with materials, that'll be a little bit different. And I think I'll put a little extra screen in there to do a little explanation of that. So when you get the link to this later, you'll see it again. Okay. Vale. Bien. Sí. Simple. So just know a lot of times you're going to hear people inserting things like that when they talk, and not a big deal. Okay.
For some reason it's a little different with when you use cotton and then you name the building, and it's just a little confusing for me, but
see, those are what something is made of. See, es de cerámica. So in other words, if you get a paper cup when you go to your coffee shop, nobody's going to say una taza, wait, paper can't be a describer. It's got to be a cup of paper. Es una taza de papel. Es una taza de papel, see, or de cartón, made of something sturdier. So when we are using a material, it'll be different. But most of the time, you're going to have a straight up descriptive word like big, little, old, young, hair color. Yeah, something like that. Okay, vale, bien. ¿Alguna pregunta? Any kind of question about that? Just so that you know when you hear people using that, and for your own use, it's a good way to shorten up the way you talk about things. Bien? Okay. Vale. Momento. We're going to take a look next at something we're going to practice a lot more. Review a lot more. And this is something where you're going to get some questions or some ideas to talk about next week based on this. Okay, so this is a review concept. For some of you who are tuning in later, it might be brand new, in which case I'm going to put in some page numbers if people have a particular book they used in their first course with me, to show you. We're going to talk about stem changing verbs, and we're going to think about it from the point of view vocabulary, and what are they, and how do we use them, because they're a little bit different from other verbs, but they're pretty common, these stem changing verbs. And you should think of this is a grammar term. All it means is the middle meaty part of the verb. Okay, the middle part, the main part of the verb. The part of the verb that is called the stem is the part that doesn't have the AR or the ER or the IR at the end. That's all it is. Okay, so it's the meaty part of the verb. And stem changing verbs are a particular category of verbs, or categories, I should say, because they fall into different categories. And we need to know that the vowel, A-E-I-O-U, the vowel in the middle of a stem changing verb goes into a different form. It splits into a different vowel combination in many of these verbs, and we're going to review what that looks like. And puedes identificar la definición. Can you identify the definition? Puedes is an example of a stem changing verb, because puedes comes from this verb poder, but you don't see podes, right? Is puedes. So the core of what a stem change means is here is the stem of poder, P-O-D, and that O vowel in the middle is something that the O in many of the conjugations will split off into a different vowel combination like this. So we're going to review what stem changes are, and we're going to focus more on using common types of verbs. Okay. Actually, I have seen some people who reference them, they say there are actually 5 categories, but really for your purposes, there are 3 because 5 is kind of stretching it. And 5 is also using 2 verbs that people just normally don't use in conversation anyway. So what you need to know is that basically there are 3 kinds of vowel splits, maybe we want to call them vowel change-ups that happen in these verbs that are called stem changers or stem changing verbs. And the 3 categories are, and this is the E, not the E of it if it's an ER, but the E that's buried in the middle of the stem, the E that's buried in the middle of the basic verb form. And E might change to an IE. If there's an O in the stem, it might change to UE. And sometimes an E might change into a single I, right? And these are the 2 where sometimes E to IE or E to IE, well, you just have to know which ones do those kinds of changes, right? The E to I change is only 1 vowel change. The E to IE, it splits off into 2 vowels, the I and the E. Okay. The stem change always happens to the vowel that is immediately before the AR or before the ER or before the IR. A stem changing verb might be in any of these kinds of infinitives, right? So in other words, IE stem changes might be in AR or ER or IR verbs, okay? They might happen in any of these varieties of infinitives. Okay, but the vowel that changes is the one that's immediately in front. And why is that important to know? Okay, let's take a look at this one. Why is that important to know? If we take a look at this verb, entender, and this is one of the most common verbs that is stem changing that you hear a lot because people ask, do you understand? Or you might want to respond, oh, I understand, I get it, I understand, okay? And we need to use this verb entender. Entender is an E to IE stem change. There's nothing about the way that word is spelled that gives me a clue. I just have to know it falls into that category. Okay, that's the stinky part of it. But wait a minute, E to IE. Wait a minute. I got a whole bunch of E's. Gah! Which one gets the change? Okay. Well, obviously, it cannot be from the end of the infinitive, right? Because the E that splits off into an IE has to be in this main part, what we call the stem. Okay, so that stem change has to be, somewhere in that body part, the main part of the verb. But I've got 2 E's. Well, the E that gets the change is whatever is next door to the ER or the IR. Or the AR, right? So it's that one. Yeah. How do you know which E changes up and splits into 2 vowels? It's that one. It's the one next door to the infinitive ending. So that's how you know. Okay. Vale. Let's take a look at where these happen. Stem changes happen in what they're sometimes called boot verbs or shoe verbs because not every conjugation gets a stem change. Okay, most of them do, but not all of them do. And for your intents and purposes, what you need to know is nosotros is always out of the picture with a stem change. It is outside the shoe, it is outside the boot. So, okay, when we get a stem change, and let's take a look at this. Here is a verb that means You turn on something that's electrical. Turn on your vacuum, turn on your coffee maker, turn on your TV, right? Encender. That is a verb that is often used to say that you're turning on some kind of a light or an appliance, something electrical, okay? And it's an IE stem change. So the stem change is going to happen in all the conjugations, but we boot out nosotros, so not there. And we actually boot out vosotros, but vosotros is only used in Spain. So in Latin America, we don't use that one anyway. So that kind of falls out. But anyway, all these are going to get the IE. And again, encender, it's got an E there and an E there. Which one gets the IE? Well, it's the one next door to the ER ending, encender. So the same gets the stem change. Enciendo, enciendes, enciende, encienden. Okay, but nosotros is outside the shoe or outside the boot. So we do not put a stem change in there. Encendemos, encendemos. Bien. Okay, so that is an example of an E to IE type of stem change. Here is an O to UE stem change, and this is one that if you know no other stem changing verb, you want to know this one, because this is a super powerful verb, poder. Poder is what we use to say can, that somebody is able to do something, okay? And poder, well, it can't be an E to IE because it hasn't got an E in the body of the verb here, right? When we look at this section through here, what we've got to work with is an O. So it's going to be an O to UE stem change. So it's puedo, puedes, puede, right? Pueden. But if we're talking about all of us together, that we can do something, it's podemos. We go back to the original O from the infinitive. We do not split it off into a UE. Okay, bien. Here's one of your, this is like, boy, if I could put like 5 stars on this, I would do that. Poder is a super powerful, super useful verb. Entonces, un ejemplo, sí. Puedes venir a mi casa. Can you come to my house? Puedes venir a mi casa. Okay, so that's an example of another common stem changing verb. So we've got E to IE, O to UE, and then we've got this little oddball category, which I'd like to say is the least important, but you know, then it always pops up somewhere. This is not the least important, but the smallest category. That's a better way to describe it. The third kind of stem change is not E to IE, not O to UE. It is E to an I. This is the smallest category. The fewest number of verbs in the language have this kind of a change. But there are verbs that you will hear or want to use. And here are 3 of the most common. Pedir, to ask for, right? Or to order, like food. Servir, to serve, and repetir, to repeat. So when you ask somebody to repeat something, this is a verb that you may hear people using, or you may want to use, repetir. And with repetir, which one is the E to I? Because I've got an E there and an E there. Well, it's the one that's next door to the IR. So it's this one that will get the change. And we show you down here what this sounds like. It's not an IE, but just an I by itself. So repito, repito, ¿sí? Repites, repite, repiten. Okay. Repito, repites, repite, repiten. But nosotros, if we want to say we are repeating, that is booted out of the boot, out of the shoe category. It goes back. The nosotros form goes back to this original vowel and does not put an extra change in. Repetimos. Okay.
Repetimos.
Repetimos, see? Okay, so these kind of stem changes, you just have to know that repetir is an E to I category change. There's nothing about the way it's spelled, nothing magic about it that will give you some kind of a clue. Some verbs are stem changers, some are not. And sadly, you just have to know. Okay, but when you listen to people talk, you will hear the stem change in the middle, yeah? Okay, aquí, decir. And this is kind of an oddball because the yo form gets this extra weird thing in here of a G that, where does that G come from? Who the heck knows? But decir, to say or to tell, the go thing with the magical G that appears from nowhere is only for the yo form, and we don't see it in the other forms. And that E from decir turns into an I sound, so it's digo, I say, dices, you say, or you tell, right? Because decir means to say or to tell. Dice, dicen, right? But what goes back to the original of decir is the nosotros form. Decimos. Decimos. It does not get an I in the middle. It's decimos. Okay? Vale, bien. So those are the three kinds of categories they have. It's a good idea to get comfortable with recognizing verbs, and I'm going to show you a bunch of verbs, and later you're going to have some prompts for speaking to work these next week to keep working them. And there is no special clue, okay, that tells you that it's kind of a red flag, if you will, to say, oh, I use this verb in a different way than a normal verb, right? You just have to know. So that's the kind of scary part, but you will hear people using it, so that's less scary. Okay. Vale. So let's take a look at what some of these let's take a look at some other common verbs that get used a lot and happen to be stem changers, what their forms will look like so that you see the forms. Now, this one is an odd one here. Tener, wow, some verbs that you've been using like forever and ever and ever pop up back and forth, and always know that there are some oddball verbs, and tener is one of those. Tener is a stem change, but the yo form should be in that boot, yeah? Shouldn't it? Shouldn't it be tiengo? But it's not, nobody says tiengo. So you just have to know that the yo form does an odd thing there. But, we use tengo so much, it's a little bit easier to get used to that oddball thing. Tengo, but tienes, do you have, right? Tener, to have, right? To have in the idea of owning something, possessing something, that kind of have. Bien, so we're going to look at some common verbs that are stem changers. Tengo, tienes, tiene, tienen, but then the we form, no stem change, tenemos. Right? Bien. Maybe a good way to look at the nosotros form not getting a stem change is that mos makes for a long word. So the longest verb is the one that doesn't get a stem change. Okay, that would make it harder to pronounce. Recomendar, to recommend. This is a verb you'll hear when you're in a restaurant, because often we ask a waiter for a recommendation on a wine or a recommendation on which dish is fresh today, which is the specialty of the day. Okay. ¿Qué me recomienda? ¿Qué me recomienda? Right? So recomendar is one that conversationally you'll want to know this verb, and it does get a stem change. What a long word this is. Recomendar, recomendar. 4 syllables. Oh, 4 syllables. It's nothing, but it is when you're saying it, isn't it? Recomendar, recomendar. And so what we need to know is that it is an IE stem change, and we look at it's got to be in the syllable that is next door to the AR ending. So it's in this men part. Yeah. And so here's where the stem change happens. Recomiendo. Recomiendo. And the ye, those are going to slide together. They'll be said quickly. Recomiendo. Right? Recomiendas. Recomienda. Recomiendan. But look at how long this word is. When we get to the long form, we cut out the IE. It's too much stuff to say. We make it shorter. Recomendamos. 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 We recommend. Okay? Vale? Here's another a survival verb. Entender. Entender. Entender means to understand, and it is an IE stem change. We look at the syllable right next door to the AR or the ER or the IR. This happens to be an ER verb. So it's right here.
No, that was on the floor.
Entiendo. Entiendo.
Sorry.
Entiendes. Entiende. Entienden. They understand. But we go back to the enten, the original, for the long verb, the long conjugation. Entendemos, entendemos. Entendemos, no stem change. Bien? Y, I'm going to label this as to come back. It means to return, but we often say come back. Yeah. Volver, but volver, it doesn't have an E in the stem, in the main body. It's got an O. So this is not going to be an E to IE. It's going to be an O to UE. Yeah, super common verb, because we talk about maybe a train coming back to the station, a bus coming back to the bus stop, people coming back to the office, or coming back to a meetup place after they all split up and go off on their own. So we use this verb a lot, volver, volver, but it's a UE, so it's vuelvo, vuelves, vuelve, vuelven. And then we go back to the original O for the long conjugation, the nosotros conjugation, volvemos. Volvemos. Entonces, un ejemplo, an example. Ana no vuelve hasta las 3. Ana's not coming back until 3. Ana no vuelve hasta las 3. She's not coming back until 3 o'clock. No vuelve. Okay. Bien. So these stem changers are super common. And super useful. We're going to show you a couple more verbs that are commonly used. Contar is kind of like decir.
No, I have a headache from eating it.
Decir means
I'll pretend.
to say or to tell. And contar means to tell, but it means like telling a whole story. So telling a whole bunch of
not
things
really. I'm allergic, baby. It hurts my head.
in sequence.
No,
Contar. Okay. Okay.
And it's not an E to IE, it's got an O in there. So like volver, contar is going to have an O to UE. It'll become cuento, cuentas, cuenta,
Yeah, it's so messy, Papa.
cuentan. And then we go back to the original o from contar to
Yes, I'm correct.
contamos for the nosotros form. Okay?
Excuse me.
And we're going to look at just a couple more. These are both, these verbs both have the same definition, but they're synonyms. Recordar is a little bit more like recall. Yeah. But recall means remember, right? You can retrieve it from your gray matter in your brain. Acordarse de is also to remember. They are two verbs that are interchangeable. They both mean to remember. This one is a little more complicated because it's got a little special reflexive pronoun and an extra preposition to use. So if you're a newbie, a newer person to Spanish, this will be an easier verb to use to say remember something, right? But know that people may use either one. And both of these happen to be O to U-E stem changes. So recordar becomes recuerdo. Recuerdas. Recuerda. Recuerdan. And then we go back to recordamos. We go back to the O for the amos form there, right? Recordar happens to be an AR verb, and acordarse is the. I'll just go
Yeah,
through those
but it's a
quickly.
client, so I can't get it.
Me acuerdo de, te acuerdas de, se acuerda de, se acuerdan de. So if you're starting off, you maybe want to stick with this verb so that it's easier to
No, I can't
use,
right now,
right?
Baba.
And these are just examples of acordarse. Okay, vale. So here are going to be
There we
verbs
go.
I want you
Gosh,
to
that's gonna hurt your
think
hair.
about and process and be able to use. You're going to get examples
No.
to look at and prep for some conversation next week. And they will use these verbs that you see in the pictures. So our first job is to recognize, ooh, here are verbs that are stem changers and what kind of change they are. So querer, to want or to love. Okay, and this is to love when you love like a person or maybe your pet, but not, we wouldn't use querer to say I love walking. Okay, we use this for people or pets. Querer, okay.
So Maddie's mom is gonna call me at 3 o'clock.
Oh,
She might
and you may
not
want
hear,
to
but we
mute
might get
yourself
APR
on the
at
side
3
there,
o'clock.
Danielle.
Maybe if she's not tired. Yeah, if she's not tired. And if we're not tired. Maddie.
Dormir is
Yeah.
an O-T-U-E, to sleep. Empezar or comenzar, and empezar I'm going to put in bold because this one I think is a little more common. You hear it more than the other verb, but both of them are stem changers in the same way. They both are equivalent. You can swap out either one, but I think empezar is a little more common. To begin, to start, that's an IE stem change. Cerrar, to close,
Yeah,
is
a
an IE
doggy.
stem change. And our entender, understand verbs. So here are the verbs that we'll be using in your questions to prep for conversation next week.
No, I know.
Preferir, to prefer. Perder, to lose. If people use it as a reflexive with that extra pronoun, it means to get lost. Poder, to mean that somebody has that ability to do something. And we pair that up with a second verb, you'll see in the example. And volver, we have that in our conjugation examples, to come back, to return. See? Bien? Recordar, acordarse, we just talked about those. Encontrar, to find. To find. Meaning you're looking for something and boom, there it is, right? Encontrar. nevar, to snow. And that's only used in one conjugation because I don't snow and you don't snow and we don't snow. Only it snows. So you'll only hear this as nieva, right? Almorzar, to eat lunch, to eat. This is the middle meal of the day. For many people in many Spanish-speaking countries, this is actually the biggest meal of the day in terms of the quantity of food served, that midday meal, almorzar, and that's an O to UE change. Bien, a ver, llover, like nevar, is only one conjugation, llueve, right? This kind of odd one, jugar, when we talk about playing sports. Jugar comes up, and it's not an O to UE, it's a U to UE, but it's the only one that's like that. So, you know, you only have to know that one. So, juego, juegas, juega, juegan, jugamos. And like volver, when I add a de in front of it and make it all one word, devolver, to return, means to return something. Not a person coming back, but you're returning a thing, like a kid returning a book to the library, okay? Or you borrowed a jacket and you're returning the jacket to the friend who loaned it to you. Yeah, that gets an O to UE, stem change. And then this verb, doler, to hurt, or we might say really ache. When we talk about a body part that hurts us, this is a little more complicated in that doler is really only used in these forms most of the time, duele or duelen. So you won't hear a yo form with this very much, or a tu form very much. We'll talk about, does your head hurt? Does your shoulder hurt? Do your feet hurt, right? So the body part that hurts, determine. If your feet hurt, it'll be duelen. If your head hurts, it'll be duele, right? It's the body part that is hurting. I'm going to give you, in this file, you're going to have questions, and they're going to be changed up from these old ones I used several sessions ago. But you're going to get some colored boxes, and it's going to have questions, and it's going to ask you to use these different verbs in a sentence. And what we'll do is next week, I'll give you the prompts in those colored boxes at the end of that file. And I want you to be able to actually plug in a specific type of verb and use it to talk about yourself or somebody else. Yeah. Or maybe to even ask a question to your partner. So you're going to get these questions using these specific verbs, and you'll use these in a smaller group session next week to do more one-on-one conversations. That makes sense, Steve? Molly?
Mm-hmm.
And
Going to go.
okay, because this is something that we kind of always need to be reminded how to use these, because sometimes you forget or you kind of dimly remember, but then you think, well, why do we do that? Well, we do that because they're in a certain category of verbs. It's called stem changers. And of course, people are never going to tell you ahead of time. They're never going to signal, oh, by the way, I'm going to use a stem changing verb. They just happen. They just come up. And you just never know when they're going to come up. So what I want you to do is to recognize when you hear it. And to that end, we're going to do a little listening video together. This is going to be a video that you'll probably want to watch a second time on your own. So I'm going to send you the link for this video so that you listen to it again. But you're going to notice when people talk, you'll hear regular verb, you know, ¿Cómo estás? ¿Qué comes hoy? ¿A qué hora comes? What time are you eating? And then suddenly somebody will inject some kind of a stem changer. So you may even hear one or two in this, but we're going to have some other questions, not related to STEM changers, but just conversational questions based on this. So we're going to watch this together since it's the first time. But I want you to watch this again. So when you listen to this, what you want to do is
Yo
you want to click on this box at the bottom that says CC, and you probably want to turn on the their AI generated YouTube subtitles. They'll be about, I'm going to say, 85–90% accurate. And sometimes there is an oops because AI is not perfect. Sometimes there are bubbles and mistakes, be that in Spanish or English. But turn on subtitles for most of you. Danielle, you may not need the subtitles for this, but we're going to listen to this. There's going to be a theme. This is not related to STEM changing. It's just a general conversation theme. So we're going to use this next week. And I'm going to cook up some things for you to talk about. But we'll listen to this together right now so that you kind of get a feel for how to break this down. Oops, let me make sure I've got my sound on. Yes, I do. Okay. The truth about living alone. And it says super beginner. So this is a slow version.
hablo con el espejo todos los días. ¿Y cómo has estado?
Hablo con el espejo. I talk with the what? You see what she's talking with?
And mirror.
The mirror. She's talking about living alone. I talk with the mirror. Okay.
What
How have you
tenses
been?
has estado?
Muy bien, muy bien. Y hoy te digo,
There's your first STEM changer. Te digo. Te digo, I'm telling you.
¿por qué?
I'm telling you why.
Hola, soy Michelle y te doy la bienvenida a un nuevo video.
And I'm welcoming you. I'm giving you a welcome. Te doy la bienvenida just means I'm giving you welcome. So I'm welcoming you to a new video. And welcoming is not one word, it's give, welcome. Te doy la bienvenida.
Hoy te cuento
And here's your second surprise STEM changer. Te cuento. What we want you to, I want you to listen to this is, when you listen to this on your own this week, a second time, I want you to have a little scrap piece of paper and make a little note every time you see and hear a STEM changer. It won't be every verb she says. It'll be here and there, here, like salt and pepper. They're sprinkled throughout. Te cuento. I'm going to tell you a story. Not te digo, I'm telling you, but I'm going to tell you many, many things in sequence. That's what cuento means. I'm going to tell you a story.
de mí, de lo que sé
About what I
desde que
know
vivo
since I'm living
sola.
alone.
Yo
What I know since I am living alone.
vivo en casa sola.
I live
Yo no
alone.
vivo en casa con mis papás
I don't live at home with my parents
o con mi hermana.
or with my sister.
Y ahora sé 10 cosas de vivir sola.
I know 10 things about living
Alone.
alone. And there, vivir does not mean to live, but it means living alone, living by yourself, as opposed to in a family setting.
1. No hay personas para hablar.
Nobody to talk with. And here's why you can't translate word for word. No hay personas para hablar. There's nobody to talk to. No hay. There's nobody. No hay personas.
He tenido un día horrible.
And here, this is an I have had. She's just putting it into the past. I've had a rotten day. Un día horrible. I've had a lousy day. Y, de verdad, no está sola. She's not really alone. Tiene su mascota. She's got her dog.
¿Y tú, Luis?
Luis. Se llama Luis.
2. ¿Te gusta mucho usar pijama? No.
And te gusta is one of those odd verbs. Gusta doesn't work with the yo form very much, right? You like.
3. Eres un chef y vas a cocinar. Y si la comida no sabe bien,
That sabe doesn't mean no. That sabe is a different saber, which means to taste. If the food doesn't taste any good, no sabe bien. This is not the saber to know. This is saber, that means taste. No sabe bien. If the food doesn't taste good,
pues la
well,
tienes que comer.
you have to eat it. You're the chef. The food's lousy. You're stuck with it.
Hola, quisiera pedir una pizza.
Oh, she's on the phone. And she's using a very polite form. I would like to order a pizza. Quisiera pedir. I would like to order. And there, pedir is the infinitive because it's connected to quisiera. Quisiera pedir, I would like. I would like is the quisiera word. I would like to order a pizza.
Vas a limpiar. Tú tienes que limpiar la casa.
You've got to do what?
Clean your house.
Limpiar. You
Clean.
gotta clean up. Clean up, right?
Tienes
Right.
que barrer
You gotta sweep.
y tienes que sacar la basura.
You gotta take out the trash.
¿Quién hizo esto?
Oh, that's a pat. Who did this?
Yo?
Oh, I did. Joe.
No more, because I'm gonna make you laugh.
Yeah. Es un caso extremo. That's kind of an
A
extreme.
lavar. 5. Eres un superhéroe. Si hay una araña, tú tienes que atraparla.
And tienes que, there is a stem changer that snuck in. Tienes que atrapar. Atrapar is catch. Atrapar, you got trap buried in the middle of that word. Atrapar means to catch. If there's a spider, you've got to catch it. And that la doesn't mean the one. That la means it. It's talking about, la might function on many levels. Catch it, meaning catch the spider.
Oh, si hay un fantasma,
There's a ghost.
tú tienes que asustarlos.
You gotta scare them. The little statue is a cultural reference, yes. If you have ghosts in your house, poltergeist, let's say, a typical reaction would be to grab your favorite saint statue to ward off the evil spirits, yes.
6. Puedes dormir.
Ah, there's your next stem changer.
Puedes dormir hasta tarde viendo la televisión.
You can sleep late watching TV.
Siete. Escuchas música todos los días. Pones música
Listen to
en la
music.
tarde o en la noche.
You can turn on your music any time of day. And alto, you can turn it on loud. Alto. Que casa. Wow, she's got a great head, right? Que casa. Fantástica.
Ocho. Cuando salgas de casa,
When you go out of the house.
vas a pensar, la plancha.
Ah, la plancha. That's the thing she left turned on. It's the iron. No. How many times have we all done that?
9. Extrañas vivir con tus papás o con tus hermanos.
And extrañas means you miss. Okay. To miss a person is extrañar. We don't use extrañar to say you missed the subway stop or you missed the bus or you missed your plane. We use it to talk about missing people. Extrañas vivir. You miss living with your parents or your brothers and sisters. Mami, mom.
Mamá, te extraño.
I miss you.
Y 10. Cuando tú vives solo, eres el rey de la
When you live alone, you're the king.
casa.
You're the king of the house.
Ahora dime tú, ¿vives solo? ¿Qué sabes de vivir solo?
What do you know about living alone? And we'll have some questions based on that next week. So listen to this again. And I would like you to also make little notes. Not all of her verbs are stem changers. Those were natural injections of using stem changers where she needed them. And that's how we have to think about them, okay? Bien? And you'll have some little conversation questions based on that video for next week, la semana que viene. ¿Está bien? We good?
Está bien,
Bien,
gracias.
bien, bien. Magnífico. Y buen viaje, Cindy. Buen viaje. I will need about 3 minutes to send you that link on Antigua so that you can see some pictures of Antigua.
Super, gracias, muchas
A
gracias.
pedir, fantástico. Ok, entonces, son las 11. Uy, son las 11:07. Sorry, I went a little bit over. Y nos vemos el lunes. See you guys on Monday. Bien?
Okay.
Bien.
Gracias,
Email
gracias.
with all the links
Gracias.
will follow today.
Hasta
Okay.
luego.
So,
Hasta luego. Sí, chao, chao. Cuídense.
Do I need to email you or can I just tell you? I think the Wednesday class is probably gonna be better. Are you able to send me the Zoom link or
I'll send you the Zoom link. Do you want the 10 a.m. or the 6 p.m.?
10 a.m.? But I'm gonna be traveling this Wednesday, so I'm gonna try to make it, but it depends on.
And just
Life?
watch, just watch later.
Okay.
You know, I'll send out that. And don't even worry about like rearranging this with Scottsdale because it'll be like phone
Okay.
calls. And God, you don't have time for that.
No, sorry
who
for the
cares?
noise. I kept thinking I was muted and apparently I was not.
No, don't worry.
Do you send paperwork or like stuff that we should write down or 'Cause I didn't get
what I do
anything.
is at the end of, perdón, I'm gonna